And so I always ask my guest, what kind of advice would you have for not only my sons, but anybody who's in law school or new attorneys? What would be your advice to young attorneys?
My most sincere advice to people who are in law school is, except perhaps for your family, just drop everything for the next 3 or 4 years and focus on your grades. Grades, to me, are so important. They are a leg up for perhaps getting an initial position that's lucrative. And if you decide to go out on your own later, you're going to find that even if you're many years out from law school, a lot of people, such as myself when I'm looking for a lawyer, look at your law school credentials. That's a very independent way to determine whether somebody knows how to put their nose to the grindstone and really understands the law. And no one can take it away from you. It will follow you for the rest of your life. So that's my best advice. You're going to hear a lot of kids running around saying during the school year, I got a clerking job, I got to be there now, And I would say, don't even talk to those people. Just focus on your grades. And that's my very best advice to students.
Well, I think
heartfelt advice.
I think that's very good advice. I am surprised when no matter what attorney you're looking at or how experienced they are. If you look at their resume, they tout their law school credentials until they retire. And so it is very important what you do in law school, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I keep putting them out there. They're like the first thing I put up is I went to the University of Chicago. I know a lot of science, and I did my job in law school, and I want people to know that.
Well, I agree. I have to first. I have to compliment you, University of Chicago. No small feat there. I'm glad that we have a school like that here in Chicago. Top notch.
Yes, so, I agree.
Yeah, and so. Again, both my sons again are in law school, and they're working hard to come out. They're both thinking about what they're going to do when they get out, and I think that what kind of advice would you have with that? Because I asked you this about yourself. What was your first job out of law school? And that's and I'm always interested in that because a lot of times that's what the lawyers will practice, whatever that is. And sometimes lawyers get into a rut, and I've met attorneys say, I do this or that area of the law. I hate it, right? And it's kind of like they get stuck there. And so how important is having the job that you take out of law school? How important is that?
Well, at the risk of creating a conflict here, I did, because I was married and my husband was with ComEd, I had to stay in the Chicago area. So I took other positions until something opened up in the Chicago area in intellectual property law. And then when it did, I was exposed to areas that were such as copyright, trade secrets, and trademark prosecution. I did some litigation, not trials, but a lot of contested motions before I received that position. And I did some litigation, worked on some litigation in my first and second positions as an IP attorney. And actually, I would recommend that everybody do litigation, even if they decided they didn't want to do that long term. I think it's like being a resident or a medical student where they expose you to everything before you become an MD. I think that's very important for everybody to experience that, and then they know better how to counsel their clients to avoid litigation.
Well, I think that's right. And I have to say, I've had attorneys, younger attorneys who came to help me in my office, and I've had the opportunity to bring them in front of a judge for the first time, and how important that was to them, to be able to just, and I say, well, what do I have to do? They'd ask. I said, just stand here, introduce yourself. And it was such a big moment in their career. I mean, to stand before a judge even. So litigation is an important, it's what lawyers do, right?
Yes, I agree. And I remember when I first did it, actually, I did it working for a bankruptcy attorney, and I was just thrilled. I really, really was happy to be able to do that. But that's really not part of my practice anymore. It's always in the back of my brain, though, when I talk to my clients and tell them it's very expensive, and we're going to do everything we can to avoid it.
It is very expensive. That's one thing. One thing that I always hear people tell me, it's about the principal. And then you say, well, this is what it costs for that principal. And they say, well, maybe it's about the money.
That's right.
It's about the
That's
money.
right.
And litigation is a it's a hard road to go. And I just had a client the other day, and they spent oodles of money. I don't want to say how much, but oodles, lots of money, and then it just led to another lawsuit. And it's kind of an eye opener for people, because you think it's about justice. It's not always about justice. Sometimes it's about how much money you can spend out. It just is, and that's just the way it is.